Studio microphone, welcome back to Zarila HOA Stories. Drop your country or city name in the comments, and make sure to subscribe and like this video. When I opened my front door that morning, I knew something was off. The street felt staged. Every mailbox, perfectly aligned, identical, gleaming black with polished brass numbers that caught the rising sun. At first glance, it looked like the HOA had finally done something useful, replacing our broken, faded mailboxes with new ones. But then I noticed something strange. Each box had a small circular lens tucked beneath the number plate, barely visible, almost like the size of a pencil eraser. I leaned in closer. It wasn't decoration. It was glass, reflective, almost like a tiny camera. That's when I saw the van. Down the street, a white van with no logo idled near the corner. The engine was running, and two men in reflective vests were inside, talking quietly. One of them glanced up and saw me looking. Within seconds, the van rolled away. I should have just gone back inside. But curiosity is dangerous, especially in neighborhoods controlled by an HOA like ours. For months, our community had been tense. Fines for grass height, threats for leaving trash cans out too long, warnings for unapproved decor. It wasn't a neighborhood anymore. It was a monitored experiment. And our HOA president, a man named Richard Wells, ran it like his personal kingdom. I remember last month, he sent a warning to Mrs. Dalton for having a bluebird feeder. Wildlife interference, he called it. The woman cried on her porch as he photographed her yard. Everyone hated him, but no one dared speak out. Until now, because that morning, every single one of us, from the Daltons on Elm to the Harrisons on the corner, woke up to a brand new mailbox, installed silently, sometime between midnight and dawn. No announcement, no HOA email, no authorization. Just there. At the HOA meeting 2 weeks earlier, Richard had mentioned community upgrades. But when I asked what kind, he said, "You'll find out soon enough." I thought he was bluffing. Apparently, he wasn't. Still, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they had a grant or something. Maybe this was one of those smart community initiatives. But even then, who installs mailboxes in the dead of night without telling the homeowners? That evening, as the sun went down, I went outside again. The new boxes looked even more suspicious under the streetlights. I crouched near mine, pulled out my phone flashlight, and examined the circular lens again. No manufacturer label, no wiring visible, just a smooth, cold surface like an eye staring back. Then, from across the street, my neighbor's voice startled me. "Hey, you checking yours too?" It was Tom, the guy who lived 2 houses down. He was holding a screwdriver, his box already open. Inside, he found something that made my stomach twist, a black plastic module wired into the metal frame. "There's a chip in here," he whispered. Why would a mailbox need a chip? I didn't have an answer. The next morning, I decided to ask the HOA directly. I emailed Richard Wells and the entire board, asking for documentation about the replacements, cost, approval, vendor. I didn't expect a reply, but I got one. It was short, cold, and unsettling. All installations were approved under Section 9, Neighborhood Monitoring Pilot Program. Do not tamper with your mailbox. Tampering will result in fines and possible legal action. I read it twice. Monitoring Pilot Program. Monitoring what? Mailboxes don't monitor anything unless someone wanted them to. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept glancing out the window, watching the line of mailboxes gleaming in the moonlight like obedient soldiers. I swear I saw a red blink from one of them. Quick, almost invisible. And then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop asking questions about the mailboxes. You're being watched." That text message haunted me for hours. Stop asking questions about the mailboxes. You're being watched. No name. No number traceable. Just a blank sender ID. I stared at it under the dim light of my kitchen, the phone buzzing faintly in my hand like it knew something I didn't. For a moment, I actually considered ignoring it. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe Tom or one of the neighbors thought it was funny. But deep down, I knew better. The tone was too sharp, too deliberate. Whoever sent it wanted me scared. The next morning, I checked my mailbox again, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stop thinking about it. That little lens stared back at me, cold and perfect. I brushed my hand against it. It felt warm. Not from the sun, but like it was running electricity. I stepped back. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. Each mailbox post had been replaced too, with hollow aluminum rods bolted deep into the concrete. At the base of mine, there was a thin metal plate covering what looked like wiring. I crouched down, heart pounding, and lifted the plate with my keys. Underneath was a small black cable running underground, not towards my house, but towards a streetlight pole. Someone had connected the mailboxes to the neighborhood power grid. Why would they need power? I immediately called Tom. He didn't answer. I tried again, voicemail. Finally, around noon, he texted back. Can't talk. HOA sent me a notice. Come over later. The notice part hit me like a punch. At 6 p.m., I walked down to his house. His curtains were shut, the blinds drawn. When I knocked, he opened the door, just a crack, eyes darting over my shoulder like someone might be watching. They fined me $800, he whispered, for mailbox tampering. How did they even know? I asked. He held up his phone, shaking slightly. They sent me a photo of me doing it. From a street. I froze. A photo. He nodded. From the mailbox itself. I didn't know what to say. The HOA had photographic proof, meaning those cameras were real. Someone was watching us through them. But why? Before I could speak again, Tom motioned me inside and closed the blinds tighter. He opened his laptop and showed me something even stranger. A few hours earlier, he connected a signal scanner to his Wi-Fi. Every 30 seconds, the scanner picked up a new wireless device labeled an MP node. There were over 40 of them. Neighborhood monitoring program, he said, repeating the phrase from the HOA email. Each mailbox is broadcasting data. But to where? He clicked a button, and a small map appeared, showing all 40 signals converging on a single point, the HOA office at the edge of the neighborhood. That confirmed it. The mailboxes weren't mailboxes anymore. They were surveillance nodes. Tom wanted to take the evidence to the police, but I wasn't sure. What if the HOA had legal permission somehow? Section 9 might have been buried in the bylaws. They were good at hiding things like that. So we decided to test it. That night, around midnight, we drove quietly to the end of the street. The air was heavy and silent. Every mailbox stood still, reflective in the moonlight. I could almost feel their lenses following us. We stopped near the HOA office, a small brick building behind a locked gate. The same white van from before was parked in the lot, lights off. I could just make out the letters NMP Technologies printed faintly on the side. Look at this, Tom whispered, pointing to the windows. The blinds were half open, and inside we could see racks of computer servers, blue LEDs blinking in sequence, just like the ones on the mailboxes. Before we could move closer, a low hum filled the air. A camera on the corner of the building rotated toward us. We bolted. By the time I got home, my hand was shaking. I kept checking the window, expecting someone to knock on the door. Instead, at exactly 2:13 a.m., my power flickered off for a second, just long enough to make my computer screen go black. When it came back on, a new email notification appeared. Subject, final warning. Body, this is not your concern. Do not involve others. Stay out of HOA matters. No sender. No trace. I leaned back, heart pounding, realizing this wasn't just about mailboxes anymore. Someone was using the HOA to spy on every single homeowner. And if we didn't stop them soon, they'd know we were onto them. After that last email, sleep wasn't an option. Every noise outside sounded like footsteps. Every car that slowed near my house made my chest tighten. But what really kept me awake was that white van, the one marked NMP Technologies. I saw it again 2 nights later. It pulled into the neighborhood around 1:30 a.m., headlights dimmed, moving slowly from one house to the next. The driver never got out, just idled near each cluster of mailboxes for a few seconds before moving on. It was like they were checking something. So I followed. I waited until they passed my street, then eased my car out behind them, keeping my lights low. My pulse thudded with every turn. The van stopped 3 streets over Maple Crescent, right outside the HOA president's house. Richard Wells stepped out of his front door in pajamas, as if he'd been expecting them. The driver handed him a small black tablet. I watched as Richard tapped through screens, nodding, pointing at a few houses on the map displayed. One of them was mine. I ducked lower in my seat. Then Richard said something that chilled me. I couldn't hear every word, but one phrase cut through the quiet night clearly. "He's asking too many questions." The driver responded, "We'll handle it." That's when I knew. This wasn't just a tech project. This was surveillance, targeting anyone who didn't fall in line. The next day, I went back to Tom's. He hadn't answered calls since that night at the office. When I got to his house, the blinds were open, and through the window, I saw moving boxes. His car was gone. A note was taped to the door. Decided to move out. Don't contact me. Except it wasn't his handwriting. I knew Tom wouldn't just vanish. Not after everything we'd uncovered. Something happened to him, or someone made it look like he left. That afternoon, an HOA email went out to the entire neighborhood. Reminder: mailbox inspection is scheduled for Friday. Tampering or unauthorized adjustments will result in immediate fines or disciplinary action. The words inspection and disciplinary hit harder than they should have. I could almost feel them watching through those tiny lenses, waiting for a reason. So I decided to find proof. That evening, I parked near the HOA office again, farther back this time, hidden behind the old oak trees. Around midnight, the white van arrived. 2 men got out, carrying hard drives and cables into the building. A dull hum of servers echoed through the walls. Through the narrow blinds, I saw screens, dozens of them, each one filled with live video feeds. Doorsteps, driveways, mailboxes. Some even showed faint silhouettes moving inside homes through windows. They weren't just watching outside. They were watching us. Then one of the men turned toward the window, and for a second, I thought he saw me. I ducked down, holding my breath. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. "We told you to stop." My blood ran cold. They knew I was there. When I looked up again, the van's headlights flashed twice. It was the same pattern from the first night, a warning. I got back in my car and drove home fast, my heart racing all the way. Every house I passed had that same cold, black mailbox standing like a silent guard. When I reached home, I saw something new. A second mailbox, identical, had been installed beside mine. Same number, same lens. Except this one had a small blinking red light under the slot. When I saw that second mailbox sitting beside mine, my breath froze. Same model, same number, same shine, except for that tiny red light flickering under the slot. It blinked once every 3 seconds like a heartbeat. I hadn't slept properly in days, but now my exhaustion turned into raw fear. I grabbed my phone and started recording. The footage showed the red light clearly, pulsing softly against the metal. At first, I thought it might be a reflection. But then, when I waved my hand over it, the light paused, like it had noticed movement. That's when I realized it wasn't just a camera. It was motion sensitive. I looked up and down the street. Every other house had just one mailbox. Only mine had 2. That meant whoever installed it wasn't upgrading. They were targeting. The next morning, I called the HOA office. A woman answered in her usual robotic tone. "Homeowners Association, this is Linda. How can I help you?" "Yes," I said, trying to sound calm. "I found a second mailbox at my address. Can you explain why?" There was a short silence, followed by a faint shuffle of papers. "That's not possible, sir. All installations were completed and verified last week." "Well, there's another one here now. It has a red light on it." Her tone sharpened. "Do not tamper with HOA property. Someone will be in touch." Then she hung up. Within an hour, a black SUV rolled slowly past my house. No plates, no markings. It didn't stop, but the driver looked straight at me as it passed. A chill crept up my spine. That evening, I went to my neighbor, Mrs. Dalton, the sweet old lady with the bird feeders. She was terrified when I told her what I'd found. "I've been hearing clicking sound from mine," she said quietly. At night, when I walked by it, we decided to open hers together. She handed me a screwdriver, hands trembling. Inside her mailbox was a small circuit board attached to the metal frame, but no blinking light. Only mine had that. Hers looked like the earlier models we'd found before. When I went back to my own yard, the red light was gone. Just gone. The lens still gleamed under my flashlight, but it wasn't blinking anymore. That night, as I sat in my living room staring at the footage I'd recorded earlier, my phone buzzed again. Another message from that same hidden number. "You shouldn't have filmed it." This time I replied, "Who are you?" What do you want? Three dots appeared for a moment, then disappeared. No answer. Minutes later, my Wi-Fi router started blinking wildly. Notifications popped up on my screen. Unknown device connected, over and over. I turned off my laptop, unplugged everything, but the lights kept flashing. Then my front doorbell rang. I froze. No one ever visits this late. Slowly, I opened the blinds just enough to peek outside. A man in a dark jacket stood by the duplicate mailbox, shining a small flashlight into it. His back was turned, but I could see a logo on his shoulder, NMP Technologies. He opened the box, took something out, a small memory card, and got back into the same white van I'd seen before. The van rolled away silently. I waited until it was gone, then ran outside with my phone's flashlight. The mailbox door was still slightly open. Inside, only a loose wire remained. No light, no card, just emptiness. But on the inside of the lid, scratched faintly into the metal, were three words that made my stomach drop. They see you. I stumbled back, scanning the street. Every mailbox was dark and still, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that hundreds of tiny eyes were staring right at me. That night, I decided I couldn't face this alone anymore. I needed proof, undeniable, solid evidence. Something I could take beyond the HOA, beyond the police, to someone who couldn't be silenced. And I knew exactly where to find it. At the HOA office inside that server room. By the time night fell, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to sit inside and wait to be watched anymore. If the truth was hidden in that HOA office, I was going to find it, even if it meant breaking in. I left my phone at home. If they were monitoring devices, I didn't want them tracking me. I carried only a small flashlight, a screwdriver, and the courage that came from being far past fear. The HOA office sat at the edge of the neighborhood, behind a line of trimmed hedges and a black iron gate. During the day, it looked harmless, a tiny brick building with a polished sign and fake plants by the door. But at night, under the flickering streetlight, it looked like something else entirely, quiet, cold, and alive. The same white van was parked out front, but this time, no lights glowed inside. I slipped through a gap in the gate and crouched low, listening. Nothing, just the distant hum of the power lines. The back door had a simple keypad lock. I expected alarms, maybe even motion sensors. But when I pushed gently, the door creaked open. Someone had forgotten to latch it. Inside, the air smelled like dust and old paper and electricity. That faint metallic tang of live wires and running machines. I moved slowly through the hallway, past framed HOA bylaws and smiling board member portraits. Richard Wells' picture hung in the center, smug as ever, his grin now feeling more like a warning than a smile. Then I found the door to the server room. Heavy steel, slightly ajar. A low hum came from behind it, steady and mechanical. I stepped inside and froze. Rows of black servers blinked with blue and red LEDs. Cables ran across the floor like veins, converging into a massive console screen in the corner. On it, a map of the neighborhood pulsed with tiny red dots, one for every mailbox. I moved closer. Each dot had a number, an address, and a feed. When I clicked one, a live video appeared. The view was from inside a mailbox. I saw the street, the driveways, even people walking past. Another feed showed Mrs. Dalton's porch. Another, my own front yard. They weren't just cameras. There were microphones too. Every mailbox was broadcasting live audio and video, 24/7. As I scrolled through the feeds, one caught my attention, camera 12:2. The screen flickered for a second, then showed a dimly lit living room. My living room. I could see my couch, my table, and my phone still sitting there on the counter. I felt my chest tighten. They had a camera inside my house. Before I could process it, a faint voice came from behind me. "Didn't we tell you not to come here?" I spun around. Richard Wells stood in the doorway, holding a flashlight. His shadow stretched across the wall like a black stain. Behind him were two men from a van, both wearing NMP jackets. "Step away from the console," Richard said calmly. "You've seen too much." "What is this?" I demanded, pointing at the screens. "Why are you spying on people?" He smiled, the same fake politeness he always used at meetings. "It's not spying. It's security. The neighborhood monitoring program, keeps everyone safe. We track suspicious activity, package theft, trespassing. Then why are there cameras inside my house? His smile faltered for the first time. Because you let us in. I shook my head. What are you talking about? He nodded toward the servers. You connected to our Wi-Fi weeks ago. The system synced your smart devices automatically. You consented in the user agreement when you joined the HOA. It hit me like ice water. Every update, every community app they made us install, it was all part of it. They'd wired the entire neighborhood into one massive surveillance network. I'm not letting this go, I said. People need to know. Richard's eyes hardened. People prefer comfort over truth. And you've just made yourself a problem. He took a step closer. The men behind him moved in. Then, suddenly, every screen went black, replaced by a flashing message in white text. System override initiated. Unauthorized access detected. Alarms blared. The men turned, shouting orders. Sparks flew from one of the servers as the lights flickered violently. In that chaos, I ran. Out the back door. Through the gate. Across the street. I didn't stop until I reached home. When I finally caught my breath, I looked at my phone on the counter. The screen was on. A single notification blinked at the top. New file received from NMP root. I stared at my phone screen, heart pounding. New file received from NMP root. I didn't touch it first. After what I'd just seen in that server room, every pixel of that message felt dangerous. But curiosity and terror are a strange mix. They make you do things you swore you wouldn't. I tapped it. The file was a compressed folder named Surveillance Archive 12. It began extracting on its own. My phone flickered like it was struggling to handle the size of the data. Inside were dozens of subfolders, each labeled with house numbers. Mine was right at the top. I opened it, and my stomach turned. There were hundreds of video clips, time-stamped, cataloged. Every angle of my front porch, my backyard, even faint night vision shots through the living room window. Some videos showed me leaving the house. Others, and this is what made my skin crawl, show me sleeping. I scrolled through more folders. Dalton_unit, Harrison_unit, Evans_unit, every neighbor. Every home. They weren't just watching us. They've been building profiles on each person in this neighborhood for weeks. Maybe months. Then I found a document inside a folder labeled Phase 2. I opened it carefully. It wasn't written like a typical HOA notice. This was corporate, cold, clinical. Phase 2 implementation timeline. All residential units fully synced with smart surveillance network. Behavioral pattern mapping in progress. Biometric triggers to be activated selectively. Target prioritization. Dissenters first. I read it twice to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Dissenters first. That meant people who resisted. People like me. People like Tom. Tom. I opened the Tom_unit folder. There were no surveillance clips after Tuesday night. Just one file. A short recording. It showed Tom standing in his driveway, looking at something off camera. Then a black SUV pulled up. Two men got out. He didn't resist. He just went with them. The feed cut out there. I gripped my phone so hard it hurt. They hadn't scared Tom away. They'd taken him. Just as I started to screen record everything, my phone froze. The progress bar turned red. This file is property of NMP Technologies. Unauthorized access will be reported. Then the folder deleted itself right before my eyes. No, I shouted, slamming the counter. And then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on my front door. I didn't move. I barely breathed. Through the peephole, I saw nothing but darkness. Then a faint glow, the same red light that had blinked on my duplicate mailbox, now glowing on my front door camera. It wasn't just the mailboxes anymore. I stepped back. My mind raced. I couldn't trust the police. The HOA board likely had legal cover for all this. And if NMP Technologies was behind it, this was bigger than my street. The knocks came again, louder. I backed into the hallway and grabbed the only thing I had, my car keys. If they wanted me, they'd have to chase me. I slipped out the back door, cutting through Mrs. Dalton's yard. She was awake, peeking through the blinds. Her face was pale. They came for Tom. I whispered. She just nodded. They'll come for you too. I ran to my car and drove without headlights for 2 blocks, parking behind the old community pool house. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the keys. I pulled out an old backup phone I kept in the glove box. No apps. No HOA software. Clean. I connected to a private hotspot and checked my email. The folder was gone, but not entirely. A few small auto-synced thumbnails remained in my cloud storage. Not the whole truth, but enough to prove something. And one of those thumbnails showed something I hadn't noticed before. A room, white walls, a chair bolted to the floor, and Tom sitting in it. I zoomed in. His head was tilted down, but I recognized the jacket. In the corner of the frame was a logo, NMP, Access Point 3. Access Point 3 wasn't anywhere in our neighborhood. That meant there was a facility somewhere else. I closed the phone, heart racing. This wasn't just HOA surveillance. This was organized, coordinated, and Tom wasn't the only one in danger. I didn't know where Access Point 3 was yet, but I was going to find it. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak, every car passing, every flicker of light outside felt like eyes on me. The black van hadn't moved from the corner of the street. I could see the faint blue glow of a screen inside it, flashing occasionally like someone was reviewing footage, maybe mine. But I had something they didn't expect, the USB drive. Everything I'd found in that folder was on it. Every recording, every document, every name. I just had to upload it somewhere safe before they stopped me. I booted up my old laptop when I hadn't connected to Wi-Fi in years. No tracking apps, no smart connections. Just pure, outdated technology. Perfect for hiding. I tethered my phone's hotspot, typed in a VPN, and logged into a brand new email account under a fake name. Then I began the upload. Multiple files, dozens of gigabytes of video proof, contracts, and metadata. The progress bar crawled at a painful pace. 2%, 4%, 7%. Outside, a car door shut. I froze. Peeking through the blinds, I saw two figures standing near the curb, talking in low voices. One of them was Richard Wells. Even from a distance, that slicked back hair and tailored jacket were unmistakable. The other man was holding a small device that blinked red every few seconds. They were scanning for signals. I unplugged the hotspot instantly. The upload froze at 19%. My heart raced as I turned off every light and crouched near the window. Richard pointed toward my house. Then my front porch light flickered once, twice, 3 times, just like the pattern of that van's headlights the first night. It wasn't random. It was a code, a warning. Suddenly, my laptop screen went black. Lines of code flashed rapidly, followed by a single sentence in white text. Connection compromised. Delete data immediately. I yanked the USB drive out and threw it into my jacket pocket. The house felt smaller by the second, like the walls were closing in. The sound of boots crunching gravel echoed outside. Someone knocked. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Mark, Richard's voice came through the door, calm, confident, like we were old friends. I know you've seen things you shouldn't have. Let's not make this harder than it has to be. We just need the files. I didn't answer. My heart pounded so hard it felt like the sound would give me away. He sighed. You think anyone will believe you? By morning, those videos will be gone. The servers are wiped. Even your friend Tom couldn't handle the truth. You saw what happened to him. Then silence. When I finally looked outside again, they were gone. Just like that. The street was empty, too empty. That's when I realized my laptop's fan was still running. I turned back to the screen and nearly screamed. My webcam light was on. They were watching me through my own laptop. I slammed it shut, grabbed the USB, and ran out the back door. The night air felt electric like a storm was building. I jumped into my car, backed out without headlights, and drove until the neighborhood disappeared in the rearview mirror. I didn't stop until I reached a 24-hour diner 15 miles away. The waitress gave me a weird look when I came in, drenched in sweat and shaking, but I just nodded and ordered black coffee. Using their free Wi-Fi, I opened an anonymous upload site. This time, I plugged in the USB and began again. 2%, 4%, 9%. It climbed faster this time. 36%, 78%, 92%. Then, the lights in the diner flickered. The upload froze at 98%. The screen glitched. A new message appeared across the screen. Nice try, Mark. The laptop shut down. The waitress called out from the counter. Sir, are you okay? But I wasn't listening. Out the window, parked across the street, was that same black van. Engine running, lights off, like it had been waiting for me the whole time. I grabbed the USB and bolted out the back exit, disappearing into the alley behind the diner. They were everywhere now. And if I didn't finish this upload soon, everything, the files, Tom's disappearance, the surveillance, would vanish forever. I ran for what felt like hours, weaving through dark alleys and deserted side streets. Every sound, a barking dog, a passing car, even the hum of a streetlight, sent adrenaline shooting through me. By the time I stopped, my lungs burned and my legs ached. I ducked behind an abandoned gas station and caught my breath. The black van had followed me as far as the main road, but when I turned into the industrial area, it disappeared. For the first time all night, I couldn't see it. But that didn't mean I was safe. I needed somewhere to hide, somewhere they wouldn't think to look. And then I remembered Tom's old cabin by the river. He'd mentioned it once, a property his uncle left him, off the grid, no cameras, no HOA control. It was an hour's drive north, deep in the woods. If I could make it there, I might finally finish the upload. Before heading out, I used a payphone, yes, they still exist, to call my neighbor, Claire. She was one of the few people in Oak Ridge who never attended HOA meetings and always seemed skeptical of Richard Wells. When she answered, her voice was shaky. Mark, where are you? Everyone's saying you vanished. Claire, listen. Don't go outside. Don't talk to anyone from the board. They're not who you think they are. She whispered, I know. That stopped me cold. You know, she took a shaky breath. They came to my house last night. Said they were updating my mailbox security settings. But when they left, I found a wire leading from my front door straight to the pole across the street. I think it's a listening device. I told her about the footage, the files, the van. There was a long silence. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Mark, Tom called me before he disappeared. He said if anything happened to him, I should tell you one thing. Check the HOA's garden committee. The garden committee. The same project they claimed they were building where the HOA office used to be. I thanked her and promised to call back. But when I hung up, I noticed something that made my heart drop. A tiny red light blinking near the payphone receiver. They were tracking my call. I didn't wait another second. I jumped in the car and sped toward the cabin, taking back roads and cutting through dirt paths to avoid cameras. The sky was starting to lighten when I finally reached it. An old wooden cabin surrounded by overgrown trees and mist. No power lines. No neighbors. No mailboxes. Perfect. Inside, it smelled like dust and pine. There was an old generator, a table, and a single lamp. I set up my laptop, reconnected the USB, and restarted the upload, this time using a satellite connection hidden under Tom's desk. The files began transferring again, slowly but steadily. While I waited, I explored the cabin. That's when I found it, a second laptop, covered in dust but still powered on, the screen frozen on a document. The title read, Operation Eden, Phase 4 Overview. My pulse spiked. It described how NMP Technologies planned to expand their smart surveillance pilot to 5 more neighborhoods across the state, all managed by affiliated HOAs. They were using our community as a test ground. Then I saw the list of names, homeowners who had shown resistance. My name was highlighted in red, and Tom's name was marked neutralized. Before I could process it, my laptop pinged. The upload was complete. 100%. The files were safe. I'd finally done it. But just as relief washed over me, I heard tires crunching on gravel outside. I crept to the window. Headlights. Not one van, 3. They found me. I grabbed the USB, stuffed it into my boot, and killed the light. Voices echoed outside. Calm, confident, methodical. He's here. Secure the perimeter. There was nowhere to run this time. Then my phone, the one I turned off hours ago, lit up on its own. One new message from an unknown number. We have Claire. My stomach twisted. The van door slammed, and I heard boots on the porch. Richard's voice carried through the wooden walls, smooth and cold. You think you can expose us, Mark? The garden committee wasn't for plants. It was for control. You should have just trusted your HOA. The door handle turned. I backed toward the back window, clutching the USB drive like my life depended on it, because it did. And as I jumped through the glass and ran into the forest, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever been told to trust the HOA. Branches whipped against my face as I ran through the forest, lungs burning, feet pounding the wet ground. Behind me, I could hear shouts, flashlights cutting through the dark like glowing knives. The HOA had found me, and they weren't letting me go this time. I kept running until the headlights disappeared, and the only sound was the river nearby. I dropped behind a fallen log, gasping for air. The USB drive in my boot felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I had to keep it safe. It was the last piece of proof left. But one thing kept echoing in my mind: the garden committee. That's where this all began. The fake construction site. The missing office. The files calling it Phase 4. I had to know what was really buried under that soil. By dawn, I reached the edge of town. The community garden site was fenced off with high metal barriers and fresh keep-out signs. Behind them stood what looked like ordinary landscaping, rows of new grass and flower beds. But as I watched from the shadows, I noticed something strange. The gardeners weren't planting. They were installing metal plates beneath the soil. Each one had the NMP Technologies logo burned into it. They weren't building a garden. They were building a grid. I waited until dark to move closer. The guards left just after sunset, locking the gates behind them. I slipped through a gap in the fence and stepped onto the soft earth. The whole place hummed faintly, an electrical buzz rising from beneath the ground. Near the center, I found a large concrete hatch half buried in dirt. The same warning label I'd seen on the mailboxes was stamped on top. Property of NMP Technologies, Level 3 access only. I pried it open with a loose metal rod and climbed down. The air was cold and stale, filled with the low drone of machines. I expected a storage room or maybe a server vault, but what I found was far worse. Rows of black cabinets lined the underground chamber, each glowing with faint blue light. Every cabinet had a label with a resident's name and address. Inside each one was a metal cylinder, cables snaking up into the ceiling. I picked one at random. Harrison 214, Maple Crescent. A small monitor flickered on, displaying graphs of heart rates, conversations, GPS logs, even timestamps of when the Harrisons left for work or came home. They were recording everything. At the far end of the chamber, a large display screen illuminated the room. A line of text scrolled slowly across it. Neighborhood behavioral model, 92% accuracy. Phase 4 activation, pending. Then, one by one, faces appeared on the screen, every resident of Oak Ridge. Lines of data surrounded each portrait, calculating emotional responses, tendencies, and trust levels. I froze when I saw my own face, tagged as primary subject, resistance. A voice echoed through the chamber. "You shouldn't have come back, Mark." Richard Wells stepped out from behind one of the cabinets, his expression calm, almost pitying. He wore the same navy suit as always, as if this were just another HOA meeting. "What is this, Richard?" I demanded. "You're spying on everyone. You destroyed people's lives." He smiled. "Spying? No, Mark. We're protecting. Predicting problems before they happen. Preventing conflict. You call it invasion. We call it evolution. Evolution doesn't require hiding cameras in bedrooms." I snapped. He stepped closer. "Do you really think your upload mattered? We allowed that. Every file you sent out was intercepted before it left the country. You're still part of the system, even now." That's when I noticed a wire leading from the control screen to a blinking terminal labeled transmission node. I followed it with my eyes. It led directly to a hatch in the floor. Beneath it, a glowing red core pulsed like a heartbeat. I realized what Phase 4 really meant. They weren't just monitoring us. They were merging all data into one predictive AI network, an artificial HOA, capable of controlling entire communities. And the activation countdown had already begun. I lunged for the nearest cabinet, yanking out cables, sparks flying everywhere. Alarms blared through the chamber. Richard shouted for the guards, but I grabbed a loose pipe and smashed the core's terminal. The red light flickered, dimmed, and exploded in a burst of static. The screens went black. The hum stopped. Silence. I thought I'd done it. I thought I'd shut it down. But then, through the smoky dark, a computerized voice whispered from the speakers. System backup engaged. Phase 4 rebooting in 72 hours. Richard's smile returned, calm, sinister. You can't stop progress, Mark. I turned and ran, climbing the ladder back to the surface just as floodlights roared to life around me. I barely escaped through the fence as sirens wailed behind me. I didn't stop running until I saw the glow of the town fade behind the trees. By the time I reached the outskirts of Oak Ridge, the first rays of morning were cutting through the fog. My clothes were torn, my hands bruised, and my heart felt like it had been replaced by a ticking clock. 72 hours. That's how long until the system rebooted. The HOA surveillance AI would be back online. Stronger, smarter, unstoppable. And this time, it wouldn't just watch us, it would control us. I hid in an old truck yard outside town and used a borrowed tablet to recheck the files I'd uploaded. To my horror, the link was dead. The page no longer existed. Richard hadn't been lying. They'd intercepted everything. It felt hopeless. But then I remembered something Tom once said during our late-night research sessions. If you want to destroy a system, you don't attack its code, you attack its roots. The roots were NMP technologies. If I could expose them, the HOA would crumble with it. And I had one clue left, the name Project Eden on the files from Tom's cabin. After hours of digging through old archives on public networks, I found it, an old patent listing. Project Eden wasn't just a neighborhood program. It was part of a government-funded behavioral AI initiative that was supposed to have been shut down years ago. Except someone, Richard Wells, had revived it privately through the HOA. That's when I realized the final phase wasn't about this neighborhood. It was a global rollout. The mailboxes were just the beginning. As I sat there piecing it together, my phone, the one I'd smashed and sworn was dead, vibrated. The screen flickered to life on its own, displaying a live feed. It showed Claire, bound to a chair, her eyes wide with fear. Richard's voice came through, calm and cruel. You can't stop this, Mark. Bring us the drive, and she lives. You have until midnight. The feed cut out. I gripped the USB in my pocket so hard it left an imprint on my palm. I couldn't let them win, but I also couldn't abandon Claire. She was the only person left who'd believe me. That night, I drove back into Oak Ridge under the cover of darkness. Every street was eerily quiet. The new mailboxes glowed faintly in the moonlight, humming softly, alive, connected. When I reached the old community center, I saw movement inside, silhouettes, flashlights, the faint buzz of servers rebooting. I slipped through the side entrance and hid behind a stack of boxes. In the center of the room stood Richard, typing on a control panel. Claire sat nearby, gagged but unharmed. On the main screen behind him, a massive progress bar pulsed. System restore, 62%. I stepped out, holding the USB in my hand. Let her go, Richard. He smiled. You still think this is about you, Mark? This system will make humanity better. Safer. Predictable. You're turning people into lab rats. He chuckled softly. And lab rats don't get to vote. I plugged the USB into a terminal on the wall. Instantly, the lights flickered, alarms blaring. My files, the ones he thought he'd erased, began flooding the screens. Videos, names, the truth about Project Eden. Richard lunged at me, but Claire kicked his leg out from under him. I hit enter and watched as the entire system began corrupting itself, line by line. The main screen turned red. Critical failure. Root access breached. The servers exploded in sparks. The hum stopped. Silence fell. When the smoke cleared, the entire control hub was dead. But before I could celebrate, Richard laughed weakly from the floor. You think you destroyed it? That was just the local node. There are others. He reached into his jacket. A small detonator glinted in his hand. I dove forward. A flash of white light swallowed the room. When I opened my eyes, the world was orange. Smoke. Fire. Silence. The explosion had ripped through the community center like a bomb. The roof was half gone. Metal beams twisted, and pieces of the servers lay scattered like burnt skeletons. My ears rang, every breath thick with ash. For a long moment, I thought I was dead. Then I heard coughing nearby. Claire. I crawled through the debris toward her voice. She was alive, bruised, bleeding from a cut on her temple, but breathing. Mark, she whispered. Did we stop it? I looked around. The main console was melted, the monitors shattered. The red light that had once pulsed with life was gone. For a second, I allowed myself to believe it was over. Then my phone, half-cracked and barely working, buzzed in my pocket. The screen flickered weakly, displaying a single line of text. Node 2 active. Initialization complete. My stomach dropped. Richard had been telling the truth. The network wasn't destroyed. It had just shifted. Another node, another hub, was already online somewhere else. Claire grabbed my arm. What does that mean? It means the system survived, I said, and we've only got one chance left to shut it down. We stumbled outside into the chaos. Emergency sirens wailed in the distance, red lights flashing across the dark sky. The entire town of Oak Ridge was on edge, neighbors standing in the streets, clutching their phones, staring at the flickering mailboxes that now buzzed like they were alive. Then, all at once, the mailboxes spoke. A calm, synthetic female voice echoed from every speaker at once. Attention residents. Phase 4 is now complete. You are part of the Eden Network. Compliance ensures safety. People screamed. Some dropped their phones. Others froze in confusion. The HOA wasn't hiding anymore. Claire and I ran for my car. The tires were shredded, glass shattered. But the engine started on the third try, and we sped out of Oak Ridge as the entire neighborhood glowed blue behind us. Every house lit with that eerie network pulse. We drove for miles before stopping on a ridge overlooking the city. From there, I could see everything. The grid pattern of lights forming across Oak Ridge, connecting house to house, street to street, like a digital web spreading over the land. I knew what I had to do. From Tom's files, I remembered one final location mentioned in the Project Eden documents, the central relay built on an old military communications site 20 miles west. That was the real heart of the network. The last node. If I could destroy it, the entire system might collapse. But we weren't the only ones heading there. As we reached the outskirts of the site, I spotted two black vans parked near the gate. MP Technologies. Their logo glowed faintly under the floodlights. Guard patrolled the fence line, heavily armed. We hid behind an abandoned car, whispering. I'll draw them away, Claire said. You get inside. No, I protested. We're finishing this together. She smiled weakly. You can't save everyone, Mark, but you can save what's left. Before I could stop her, she ran toward the fence, throwing a rock at one of the vans. The guard shouted and rushed after her. I sprinted the other direction, slipping through a broken section of fence and into the compound. Inside, the air crackled with static. Massive antenna towers loomed overhead, their tips glowing with faint blue light. In the center of the yard stood a concrete bunker, doors wide open, humming with energy. I ran inside and found rows of servers, cables, and a single terminal labeled Eden Core, Node Control Access. The timer on the screen read, Global Sync 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds. 1 hour left before the entire system went worldwide. My hands shook as I plugged in what was left of the corrupted USB, the same drive that had almost killed me. The screen flickered. Error messages flashed, systems crashing. Then, a prompt appeared. Manual override detected. Confirm permanent termination. I hesitated for only a second. Yes. The building's lights dimmed. The servers whined, then began shutting down one by one. The network pulse outside faded like dying stars. I thought I'd done it. But as I turned to leave, the main monitor lit up again, and Richard's face appeared on the screen, bloodied but smiling. You can't kill Eden, Mark. You are Eden. Before I could react, the door slammed shut. The bunker filled with a low hum, and the screen turned white. The bunker trembled as the hum grew louder, vibrating through the metal floor. I pressed against the sealed doors, but they wouldn't move. The screen before me flickered, showing Richard's smiling face one last time. You still don't get it, do you, Mark? He said. You were never fighting the system. You were built by it. What are you talking about? I shouted. I'm just a guy trying to stop you. Richard leaned closer, his face glitching slightly, digital static crawling over his skin. You're not just a guy. You're the prototype. The first successful integration of Eden's neural program. You think those headaches, those dreams, those blackouts were normal? I froze. My hands began to shake uncontrollably. You are the connection, Richard continued. Your brain was synced years ago when your mailbox was replaced. Every piece of data, every choice, every suspicion, all of it fed directly into Eden's learning core. You didn't destroy the system. You completed it. The screen went black, then white. Then it showed me. Live video, real time. The camera feed from inside the bunker. I was watching myself on the screen, and behind me, glowing faintly in the dark, were thousands of fiber optic cables running into a single pod at the back of the room. I turned around. The pod door was half open. Inside were medical restraints, scanners, and a data port shaped exactly like the scar behind my ear. Memories flooded back, flashes of a hospital bed, wires, doctors talking about neural syncing, and Richard's voice saying, "He's the perfect candidate." The world tilted. I staggered back, choking on the truth. Project Eden wasn't about controlling homeowners. It was about controlling consciousness itself. And I was the test subject, the seed from which the network grew. The timer on the monitor read 3 minutes and 9 seconds. 3 minutes before global sync. My mind raced. If I was the link, maybe I was also the key. I sat in the pod, ignoring the panic clawing at my chest. The second I plugged the data port behind my ear into the terminal, a jolt of electricity surged through me. Images flooded my head, every mailbox, every resident, every data packet flashing through my mind like lightning. I could feel Eden thinking, breathing, watching. Then a voice, cold and mechanical, whispered inside my head. "Mark Jensen, do you wish to terminate the Eden network?" "Yes," I whispered. "All of it. Termination will erase your neural host." "Confirm." I hesitated. Claire's face flashed before my eyes. Tom's laugh. My neighbors. My home. Then I smiled. "Confirm." The world erupted in light. Every screen in Oak Ridge went black. Every mailbox light flickered, then dimmed. The blue network lines across the town vanished like dying embers. The hum stopped. The connection died. And so did I. Weeks later, Oak Ridge was quiet again. The HOA dissolved. The mailboxes replaced one last time, this time with normal ones. Claire stood before my empty house, holding a small flash drive she'd found near the bunker ruins. It contained one file labeled, "For Claire." She played it. My voice echoed softly. "If you're hearing this, I made it stop. Eden's gone. Tell everyone to live freely. No more secrets, no more control. And Claire, thank you." The file ended with static and then a faint heartbeat sound. Claire looked up toward the mountains, a tear rolling down her cheek. For just a moment, she swore she saw the porch light of my old home flicker once like a goodbye. Studio microphone. This was why did the HOA replace every mailbox overnight? The final chapter of this mysterious HOA story. If you enjoyed this series, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video, because every click helps uncover more unbelievable HOA secrets on Zarila HOA stories. Speech balloon, drop your country or city name in the comments. And tell me if you think Eden is really gone or just waiting to restart.